In today's video, we are going to talk about Pilates. Pilates is a method of exercise that consists of low impact, flexibility and endurance movements. It emphasizes proper postural alignment, core strength and muscular balance. Pilates was named after its creator, Joseph Pilates, who developed the exercises in New York in the 1920s. Although it only started to become popular in the UK from the 1970s. In my opinion, Pilates is a great way to get fit and stay flexible with very little effort. Today, I'm going to be talking with Teri, a holistic personal trainer, about the benefits of Pilates. Hi, Teri.
Hello, Kerry. Thanks for having me.
That's all right. It's great to see you. Can you please tell our audience about your past experience and journey with health and fitness?
Yes, my journey with health and fitness probably started when I had my first son 27 years ago. But at that time, I was actually a holistic therapist. And as I got more interested in developing my own health and well-being, I decided that it would be something that I would like to do for myself, but also it meant that I had a really good tool then to support other people going forwards. So that's what I did. I embarked on doing lots and lots of qualifications at South Devon College. In fact, I did all of the qualifications in their suite: the children's fitness, the aerobics, the gym instructors, the personal trainers, the chair-based exercise, and the aqua. And they asked me to work for them as an assessor. So I've been at South Devon College for the last 12 years now, involved in the Fitness Instructor Academy, teaching and developing students, supporting students, assessing students. And along that journey, I did a yoga qualification because I've got a deep love for yoga. And then also I did the Pilates as well. So I've been teaching the yoga and Pilates for about 5 years now, and it completely flipped everything on its head, the way I would train myself and the way that I would teach. So Joseph Pilates developed this back in the 1920s. It was mainly as a form of rehabilitation, was where he was coming from with it. So soldiers coming back from the war. He worked with dancers as well, ballet dancers. And it was only really when he died that they changed the name to Pilates, and actually he called it contrology. It's about control, so being in control of yourself, being in control of your movements, so all the movements that you do are mindful, and you are using the principles of Pilates when you exercise. You need to start from your core, so that will be something that I'd like to discuss a little bit further, a little bit later on, how to get that contraction through your core and actually lock it in before you do any of the exercises. And I'd like to demonstrate a couple of the exercises for you, just to give you a little bit of an idea of how it works. But it builds, as you quite rightly said before, it builds strength from the core, builds a strong body, but it's really about bringing you back into alignment. So where you may have tight muscles from overuse on one side of the body, you may have muscles that are too loose on the other. So you need to, strength is really important. All the muscles have a function. They all need to be strong, but they all need to have a level of flexibility.
And could you give us one specific example of how a Pilates could help someone? If you've got something specific you could say could treat for, because we talk about core strength and things like that, and you're talking about some people with injuries now, but generally, but what about a specific illness? Or
it's really common that people are living with pain, back pain, and again, quite often that isn't necessary. Sometimes it's through injury, sometimes it's through operations as they've been developing and growing up, but often it is just about the fact that the back is being used, overused, instead of the actual muscles that should be igniting. Sometimes people's glutes in their bum don't fire up when they're walking, or if your core is quite weak, the back takes a lot of the strain, and so you can live in quite a lot of pain, tight hamstrings. So the back is a key thing, but there are people out there, you hear of more and more, suffering from things like fibromyalgia and ME, and they're not necessarily able to do high impact exercises. Also, as we get a little bit older, females going into menopause, that high impact stuff isn't quite so useful. It isn't really what we need. And Pilates can strengthen the core. It can bring you back into alignment, and it gives you a level of control. It allows you to take back control over your body and take you out of a place of pain and discomfort.
Yeah, well, I know when I've done some Pilates myself, and I know I found it quite easy. I was quite surprised how from the, the start of the session to the end of the session, I didn't feel like I was doing that much. But they use an example of the try and touch your toes, and then you try again at the end, and obviously you can get that much further. You've got that much more flexibility, and definitely from doing it on a regular basis, I definitely got fit. But it doesn't seem like, it's not like you say, it's not high impact. Does it have any contraindications? Is it for everyone? I mean, it seems quite easy in respect.
Like with all disciplines, there will be contraindications, but it will be specific to each exercise that you do. So if you were working in a plank position and you had carpal tunnel syndrome, or you had a shoulder injury, then you're going to probably not be comfortable in a plank, or maybe not even be able to do it initially. So you would adapt that with your knees lowering, or you may be in a box press position. So every exercise has its adaptation. So because we are all individual, and this is something that we need to realise. You go into a group session and everyone tries to keep up with the instructor, and unless you're given adaptations or you're given alternative ways of doing things, you're always going to be trying to do something that maybe you're struggling to do, and then you're going to have a sense of not being able to achieve that. Kerry, you said that you found the exercises fairly easy. That surprises me, because if you've got a lot of, I think when you visualize somebody doing a Pilates exercise, it does look, because it's quite slow moving, or often quite slow moving when you're first developing it. If you look at films of Joseph Pilates, they were all doing it really quite fast. But what you need to realize is that until you understand what muscles you want to recruit and you're in control of what your movements are, then you're not really able to do that very quickly. So so being mindful and thinking about, first of all, it will be a sequential contraction through your pelvic floor. A lot of people don't know how to do that. Women are told when they have children, oh, do your pelvic floor exercises, but they're not really told how to do that. So you need to learn how to get that pelvic lift. You need to start to recognize the feeling of the transverse abdominis, which is your deep core muscle. That's your deepest of your abdominal muscles, and it does what it says. It traverses all the way around the body, and it acts like a corset, and that's the muscle that gives you the effectively a flat tummy. But that's the one that's more important really than the rectus abdominis, the one that we say we get our six pack from. And people kind of want to look like they've got a six pack, but actually it's much more effective for you to really tighten your transverse abdominis, know how to do that. And once you've got that in control, and in a lot of the exercises, especially if you're lying on your back, you're going to need to make sure that you've got a real imprint and that you are pulling that back. And if you're not maintaining that, or not able to maintain that, then you're losing stability in your movements. And then it might feel like the movements are much easier, but actually if you've got that core lock in, you're stabilized through your pelvis. That's what you're aiming to do. You'll be stabilizing through your shoulder blades here at the back. So any movements from the arm won't then, so the difference would be if you weren't stabilized through your shoulders, you might have lots of movement here, but actually what you're looking for is a shoulder that stays down while the arm moves up.
Right. Would you want to demonstrate something? It sounds like I wasn't doing it properly. That's why I found it so easy.
that might not be the case, but it's just, I think people lose patience with Pilates because it looks slow, and they think, that's not going to make me fit. But actually, if you're really breathing nice and deeply in through the nose, in Pilates we breathe out through the mouth, usually on the effort. And then when you're breathing out through that effort, that's the time that you're going to think about lifting up through the pelvic floor, very quickly followed by the pulling back of the belly button. And if you pull back the belly button, that's then your transverse abdominis that will be engaged.
I'm pretty good at doing it, actually. I'm just saying it.
Some women say to me, and men as well, because the pelvic floor is really important to be worked in men. It's just that women tend to go through, on the whole, more in that area. So they tend to have more problems, or the problems come earlier. So it does affect men as well. So that transverse abdominis muscle is responsible for supporting all of your inner organs and inner functions. So when that isn't worked anymore, that's when you start to get issues with prolapses and leakages and all those other things that we don't like to talk about. And then we go and buy a pack of tenor ladies or something, and we think that that's the answer. We don't really need to do those things. We can work the pelvic floor. And even if at first you can't feel the feeling, it doesn't mean that you're not making the connection from your neuro pathways in the brain. And that's what needs to happen. The more you think and the more you focus on that area, the more you carve the neuro pathways. And then one day you suddenly go, I can feel it. I can feel that connection. And then that only just gets stronger and stronger. So that's what we need to work on.
So are you going to demonstrate something for us now? I mean, we've been talking a lot about it.
Yeah. I'm just going to take this off because otherwise it might restrict you from seeing the imprint that I'm creating on the mat.
Okay.
A little bit of undressing. Okay, so I've got my mat over here. Are you able to still hear me over here?
Yeah, that's fine.
I'll talk you through what I'm going to do. So I'm going to do a roll down first of all, just because the next exercise will be an exercise lying on the mat. I don't like to waste any of my movement, so I'm going to do the roll down. So what I'm effectively going to do here from this position is take a nice deep breath in. In Pilates, we use an ABC, so it's about alignment. You need to check that you're in correct alignment. Then it's your breath, nice deep in breath to prepare. That's when you get all the oxygen in and fill the lungs up. And then your exhalation then will be about your contraction. So straight away here, you see how I've curved my spine. I'm lifting up through my pelvic floor. I'm contracting my transverse abdominis by pulling my belly button back, and I've got my chin into my chest. Now, if I wasn't talking right now and running out of breath, I would take my out breath all the way down to the mat. But I'm looking to get my lower back onto the mat first of all. So then I might bring the back of my head to the mat. Some people don't like working chin to chest, but again, I'm going to just correct my alignment here. And I'm going to bring you into what we call a single leg stretch, just as an example of one of the exercises. So again, ABC, in breath. So this is my starting position, and you can't get your hand underneath my lower back, and that's because I've curved my spine, but I'm also really working hard here to pull up my pelvic floor and to pull back my belly button to create this imprint, and I don't want to lose that imprint. Okay, so I'm going to do, say, I'm just going to do 3 or 4 for demonstration purposes. You might do 6 to 8 when you're actually working, but watch how this foot lifts off the floor now, and pay attention to how the breath goes. Now, all the time I was doing that there, I was really working hard through my pelvic lift. If that pelvic lift fatigued and I lost it, I would come down and I would rest. But I'm going to show you an adaptation as well here, because that's quite advanced, taking the legs down the mat. And what I'm trying to avoid is rocking and rolling. So what could go wrong here if you weren't engaged and you weren't stabilized through your pelvis is that you might find that there's lots of movement going on at the pelvis here. But I don't want that movement. The only movement is coming from the actual hip joint itself. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Now, what I can do to change this or to adapt this movement is to not straighten the legs, and then I'm just taking the foot to the floor. So in breath here. And effectively, I would start a lot of people off here with this exercise, because until they've got precision and until they've got full control and they're able to maintain their imprint into the mat and they're stabilized through their pelvis, then I wouldn't then take them to this advanced position. And the other thing that can happen here for a lot of people is they struggle to keep the chin into the chest. Now, keeping the chin into the chest is really important because letting your head drop back will cause neck strain. But if there's too much going on and you can't focus on all of it, because we can only focus on so much at once, can't we? Then you are able to do those exercises with your head down on the mat, like that. So there's lots of different variations to do that exercise. Now, if I'm going to do an exercise the other way from here, let's say we'll do the bridge. I'm going to walk my feet in. So I've got kind of hip width apart here. There's a gap between my knees. My heels are coming in towards my sit bones. But I want to do the same thing with my pelvic lift and my transverse abdominis. Now I'm going to keep my chin just drawn back. So I've got a nice long neck. And I'm going to exhale. So ABC, I'm in alignment, breath. And I'm going to move this arm because I just want you to see what happens here. When I breathe in, I can create expansion here. I've got a nice natural arch in my lower back, but as soon as I breathe out, I'm going to do the pelvic lift and I'm going to create the imprint by pulling back my belly button. So just see the change that occurs here. So I'm pressing my lower back into the mat. Now I really want my glutes involved here. So don't just expect them to fire up automatically. Very often they don't. A little bit of a squeeze through the bum, and I'm just going to peel my spine up off the mat. Now, how high you go here will depend on the flexibility of the front body, but this exercise will really strengthen the back and the glutes. Okay, and what we can do here, I'm just going to lower my arms while I do this. I can just do 3 leg pumps. Just an example of what you can do as you advance. And then nice deep breath in here. And I'm going to keep my glutes engaged and I've got my full pelvic lift, but now I'm looking to reverse lower the spine. And then I can release here and take a nice deep breath in. And maybe just hug the knees in. So that was all fairly quite slow, but it was very intense. So as long as you are recruiting the muscles, so there's lots of focus occurring in your movement. I'm just going to, because I don't like wasting anything, Kerry, I'm just going to do a little roll up here. So I've got that curvature in my spine all the way up. There is no point in doing any of those movements until you have made sure that you're in the correct alignment. You've taken a really, really deep breath to prepare. And then on your out breath is when you're going to create the contraction and the lift through the pelvic floor, through the transverse abdominis. So you're effectively going to pull the belly button back and create that. You're creating pressure into the mat. So you're losing the natural curve of the lumbar spine and you're pressing it into the mat. Then you're locked. And it takes quite a lot of energy to maintain that when you continue to breathe in and out. And then any other movement that you do afterwards should be then really stabilized. So we stay slow because we want that stabilization. If you start rocking and rolling through the pelvis, there's a good chance you're going too fast or you've lost that key lock. And it's that lock that that starts off all of the movements.
Teri's actually offering free consultations with no obligation. If you have any more questions regarding Pilates or any particular health concerns that may need some exercise tips. So Teri, where can they contact you?
They can contact me through the link below. I am Yogalatespt PT.
No, thank you so much for all of that. It's been very useful information and thank you for demonstrating a quick taste of Pilates. So for more information, please click on the link below. And if you'd like to subscribe to the channel, we'll be sharing more wellness tips every week. So thank you again, Teri, for your time. I appreciate it.